And ladies and gentlemen, we are now live here on Facebook. We are now live on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, also on the Northeast Streaming Sports channel. You can also catch us on sportnarium.com/player. And tomorrow you can catch us also on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. And alongside myself here to talk all the latest happenings here in the world of sports and much, much more is Billy McInerney of Elite Sports, and also Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Chris Pizzea of the Liftoff Jets and Talking Rivals, Patrick Trotty, esteemed author, also the Talking Rivals, and the legendary brute force Brad Weiss, a man who needs no introduction, of course, of our SJC Long Island Golden Eagles fame, also Level Up Basketball, LI Nets, so much, much more, and of course the head coach of our Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV team. And guys, how we doing tonight?
Good.
Oh, good.
Doing great.
All right, a lot to get into here, but I think the brute force and I think we've been kind of put under pressure here under the gun with this. But before we get into it, I did want to obviously, Brad and I, for a few minutes here so we can kind of get it out of the way here, congratulate our SJC Long Island Golden Eagles men's basketball team. Obviously, unfortunately, our boys came up short here Tuesday against Manhattanville, who was in the Skyline Conference Tournament Finals, and it was a very, very hard-fought game, and it was kind of emblematic of the season. Our boys never gave up. They showed all the heart and fight in the world, but unfortunately, we came up a little short, 64-58. And before we get into all the latest happenings here in the world of sports with the gang for Northeast Streaming Sports and also for Tobacco Road over there, the Brute Force, I wanted to kind of put a bow on the season for our Golden Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, congratulations, like you said, to the entire team, the entire coaching staff, the school, because this was a tremendous year for our SJC Golden Eagles men's and women's basketball teams, who both were able to get to the playoffs this season for the first time in a while, and ultimately both, unfortunately, lost in the first round against Manhattanville on the road. But, you know, both teams are young. Both teams have a lot of great talent that we can look forward to for many more years. And I'm just excited to see the direction of this program going forward. And as soon as the game was over, I spoke to almost the entire coaching staff, a couple players, and I just told them to keep their heads up because there's nothing to be upset about. They had a great year. Obviously, it fell short of what they wanted to do, but the things that they did right this season were there. I mean, how many Rookie of the Weeks did we get as a program?
I think they should have named the award after the program. How many of them? What do we have, 8 of the 12 weeks or something like that? 8 of the 13?
It's phenomenal. I mean, 15 wins is the most in many years. The first time they got into the playoffs is 2017. I mean, there's so many different things that they did that are very much big-time things for SJC because we just haven't been there in a little bit. So it's definitely exciting. I'm very happy to be an alumni and see this team doing very well. And I just can't wait to see the future of this program led by coaches Mike McSloy, Jason Godiezzo, Coach Mantesta, and obviously Coach Billy Heenan. So I'm just excited for them. Thank you to all the players for not only having a great season, but also being tremendous supporters of our show. I know a lot of them.
They're all big supporters. All the guys talk about how much they listen to the show and they listen to all the things we talk about. And I also, before we get into some of the other things, I want to shout out some of our seniors that we know are not coming back. And Kevin O'Halloran and obviously Gordon Schroyer, obviously tremendous leaders here on this team. They meant a lot to the program. I think Gordon meant a lot, especially. We spoke a lot about Gordon, Brad, with Coach Gordiesso here many, many times, and I felt like he was the guy that kind of put us in the position where we had one of the best regular seasons we've had here in about a decade. Also, Kevin O'Halloran. Kevin has been a big fan of ours, and he had some big shots for us. Also want to thank Matt Hurt. I mean, Money Matt. I mean, we're not going to tip Matt's hand on what could happen, but obviously we're just saying stay tuned. All we're going to say is stay tuned for Matt. Obviously, what a career he has had at SJC. To be continued. Stay tuned. Also want to shout out guys like Rashard Lawson and Nick Nemekis and the Brute Force. We're going to plead the fifth on who is a better Plainview JFK Hawk alum. We're going to definitely plead the fifth on that, but I want to shout out Nick Nemekis. I also want to shout out guys like Timmy Hurd, of course, Tom Bell, who's become a big fan of ours, Big Spence Malloy, Alec Tabata. Also want to thank a number of different guys like Basir Hoyt, who might not have been in for us. Ferry, can never forget about Anthony Ferrafino and Jake Gordiello and Ryan McNeely and Ryan and Jake. Hopefully you keep the flow for us next year. Don't cut that hair for us. I mean, because I kind of feel that hair gave us some good luck. So I definitely want to make sure that we shout out Jake and Ryan McNeely. Ryan hit some big shots for us. And also the coaching staff, I want to make sure I recognize the entire staff, whether it's Coach McSloy, Coach Billy Heen, who's been on the show with us. Obviously, Coach Gordieso, Joe Mantessa. This was one of the best seasons that the program has had in a long, long time. Think about it. Went over a top 15 team in Yeshiva. That's going to be in the NCAA tournament more than likely. Think about the win against Baruch. Baruch right now could very well win the CUNYAC. They could be in the NCAA tournament. Look at how well we played against Manhattanville. Look at the wins we have against Merchant Marine. A lot of great wins. There's no question that the program is in the right way. You can follow the team, of course, on Twitter at SJC_MBB, Instagram, SJCMBB. Also, St. Joseph's College, New York. Please like the Facebook page, well, SJCNY, because there's a lot of great things that the school and the program have to offer here at Dandy Center. And we're alive, the Brute Force. Listen, again, and I'll continue to say it. Who knew what this team was going to do outside of us, because we know the program and the players and the staff, but 15 wins, 15-8 to finish the regular season. This was the best regular season the team had going back since John Matejko was here. That's over a decade ago. I mean, there's a lot of accomplishments here. 11 wins in the Skyline Conference, our best season in the Skyline Conference since 2015. I mean, listen, they won more games here than just about you won the last 3 years at SJC. So clearly you were the good luck charm, Brad. Clearly, you graduated, we started winning. Notice the trend. You leave, Brad, and all of a sudden, all these guys start winning. But it all kidding aside, I really do want to thank the team for their support. They message us all the time. I mean, all the guys here on the team, and they all just did a phenomenal job. Like I said, again, Tom Bell, Rashard Lawson, who didn't play much, but I'm telling you, got a big feeling. Rashard and I speak all the time, and Nick Nemekis, and anything else you want to say, Brad, to the team before we move on?
I'll say it one more time. I'm just really proud of them. And as an alumni and as somebody who, not only is an alumni, but also represents people who support SJC, you should know that we are very proud of you guys. I cannot thank you guys enough for giving us a great season to watch. I mean, me and Tom absolutely loved watching every time.
I'm a little sad right now we don't have basketball. I got to be honest. I mean, I was telling you off the air, and I was speaking to some of the guys after we lost, and I'm like, what am I going to do now? Wednesdays and Saturdays and the occasional Tuesday game. I mean, I got to be honest. Like, life's not the same right now at SJC.
Well, I will say there's one thing that I just have to mention quickly is that Plainview basketball is not over yet because we are going to the county championship on Saturday, next Saturday. So we got a nice win against the undefeated Syosset Braves, and we're going to the county championship next Saturday at Hofstra against Baldwin. So the work is not done for my Plainview Hawks. I'm certainly excited to continue with that as we go into our first county championship ever as a school. So it is definitely exciting times for me at Plainview. But certainly our Golden Eagles, it's exciting times for them, and it's going to be a lot of exciting years to come watching our Golden Eagles.
Absolutely. And again, as I always say, a rising tide certainly lifts all boats, and we have a very good feeling about that. I also want to shout out Mark Roberts Jr., your old teammate, the Brute Force, and Mark was in there very early on in the year. He provided some big minutes for us. Again, listen, there's a lot of pieces here. This almost entire team comes back. Hopefully, Matt, stay tuned with Matt Hurd. I don't want to tip my hand. I don't want to say anything, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. Obviously, congratulations to Gordon on a great career. In fact, he was able to extend it with Coach McSlay. We know his relationship with him. Obviously, Kevin O'Halloran. Again, Kevin played forever at this point, the Brute Force. Kevin was playing like in the 2000s. So obviously, congratulations to Kevin. Again, Kevin went through a lot of adversity, really turned around his career and had some big moments for us. The future is definitely bright. We have key pieces. Alec is going to be a huge part of that. Alec Tabana, Spencer Malloy, Big Spence. I think Ferry. Hopefully, we get a twin Towers in there, much more at games. Gordiello was a huge part of the game, kept us in it, obviously. Timmy Hurt's another guy. Timmy and Alec almost play the same role. Ryan McNeely, I think, is going to be a big part of the offense. Listen, a lot of great things. Tom Bell, I think, is going to take over where Gordon left off. And again, huge shout-outs to the entire staff. They've almost all come on. They've all been big supporters. So thank you guys for all that you've done for us. Thank you for all your support. And I can't wait to be back out there next year and watching you guys this time in person. I think I said this to Matt Hurt real quick. I think one of my bucket list things now is to be at the Max Stern Athletic Center, Yeshiva, number 15 Yeshiva when we play them, and number 20 now, Yeshiva St. Joe's. So that's on my bucket list. So we'll see if I can get out there and travel to a bunch of games now that we hope that things are getting back to normal. But speaking of getting back to normal, guys, here, it looks like here maybe Major League Baseball might be having an idea that they might want to get back to normal here also, because we saw some developments here, and I want to set the tables with that, of course, with Billy McInerney, and Billy's back with us, and Billy's wearing his Binghamton gear, so that means I'm excited. So, Billy, welcome back, and are we getting some normalcy just maybe when it comes to Major League Baseball?
I hope so. I would say I'm cautiously optimistic that some progress is being made. I mean, this Monday deadline that the owners claim is a hard deadline, I still don't totally believe that. I think if it's close, they'll, push another day or two, especially with the Player Association threatening that they won't agree to expand the postseason if they don't have a full season. So this is always going to come down to the wire. I ultimately think there's too much money at stake. I mean, at this point, they're mostly just throwing numbers back and forth. They seem to have a rough idea of the structure set up. So that can come at any time. At any point that breakthrough can come now, where I don't think there's really a strong disagreement on the structure of the CBA, more just, the allocation of money. And that I think when push comes to shove, I do think that there's going to be, if not a CBA, a framework of a CBA by Monday where we see a full season. I'm cautiously optimistic about that. That could change tomorrow, but at least I'm cautiously optimistic that
I think Patrick's been using that phrase kind of for the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I heard that last night overnight on the Fan when Pat Boyle was filling in for Salicata, and that was kind of Pat Boyle's term. So I think clearly Pat Boyle is listening to us, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. And for the first time, I'm feeling a little optimistic, which I'm usually never optimistic when it comes to this whole fight between the players and owners. But Justin, always good to have you here, my friend, and wanted to get your perspective on where we might be potentially with some positive signs here when it comes to players and owners maybe getting their acts together and giving us some normalcy in a baseball season on time.
Well, I'm hoping, just like everybody else, but yeah, I don't know that I don't know that I'm as optimistic. I'm still pretty close to firm on the season starting around June 1st.
Okay.
I still think we're looking at less than 100 game season. I really do. And it's unfortunate. It's going to be a big hit to baseball, but I just don't think that these two sides have made enough progress during this entire week. I mean, it's cool that we're finally meeting every day, but why did it take until the last week of February? I mean, I'll answer why, because I'm the king of procrastination. You tell me a report's due on December 6th. You better believe December 5th at 11:30 at night, I'm getting it done. So, I don't.
All of us here, we're in the same boat. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so procrastination. I mean, the 11th hour is usually, when a deal gets done, and could that mean they will have a deal by the end of the weekend, or at least a framework so that teams can report to spring training by Monday or Tuesday? Sure. Do I believe it? No, because I don't think we've seen enough progress. Now, today seems like there was more progress than most of the week, but it's also Friday, and we're talking about Monday being a quote-unquote hard deadline. Well, let's go. I mean, it's great that they're meeting for a couple of hours, but why are they not locking themselves in that building for 8 to 10 hours? And why are they not, it's okay. So MLB gives an offer. You want to go back to your caucus and you want to discuss it? Fine. You come back. Okay. They were going back and forth. That's great. But why not just lock yourself in there for 8 to 10 hours? Hell, you guys are millionaires and billionaires. Order yourself some food. I'm sure people gladly deliver hundreds of dollars worth of food because they'll get a nice tip. So this should have been figured out already. That's what's so disconcerting.
Absolutely, no question about that. And for you, Chris, give me your perspective on everything between the players and owners, and maybe some positive signs here.
Yeah, I we did get a little positive sign today. Like you said, why'd it take to the end of February to start meeting every every day. This should have been happening as soon as the lockout started. It should have been, all right, we got to get together. We got to start talking. They took over a month just to meet up for the first time.
Yeah.
And today was actually, they said today was the first time Tony Clark and Manfred met face to face since the lockout started. Like, how is that even possible? That makes no sense whatsoever. So I mean, yeah, they got a little closer with the draft lottery. So yeah, they made. But listen, the major items they're still far apart from. So I don't think a deal's going to happen by Monday. But like Billy said, maybe they'll extend it a few days. That's what I'm hoping for. Maybe for the week. Maybe we only lose a week of games. That's what I'm hoping for. But I mean, from what I see and what I've seen the last few years with this, with baseball, is I don't feel like the owners, I don't feel like even most of the players don't have that love for the game that the fans have, or that the previous owners and the previous players have had in years past. I just don't feel like they have like it's more of a, hey, it's like a cash cow for them almost. Like, yeah, it's like a guarantee. Like we don't see them advertise the game as good as they should, like how football puts that game out like they do, basketball, even hockey. I think hockey could do a better job, and they do a better job than baseball does promoting the sport. So I just feel like there's not enough love from baseball itself, like say from the fan. Like I don't know, I just don't see it. And this lockout is just showing you. I mean, how do you wait a month before you could just start talking to each other about this? And how do you wait almost 3 months before the two heads start to, are meeting face to face? I thought that was ridiculous. So I don't know, but I'm cautiously optimistic, like we've been saying for so long. So.
Well, that's certainly, listen, and those are very valid points. I mean, you would think, okay, well, why didn't the commissioner and Tony Clark meet, I don't know, 2 months ago even? I mean, that wouldn't have made sense, right? If everybody was serious on a deal. So some of those things are certainly fair points. And Patrick, you've always been kind of the optimistic one here, and I kind of stole your phrase, and Billy didn't, and it seems like everyone else has so far. So what do you think now on these latest developments? Are we maybe any closer to some normalcy in a baseball season on time?
I'm doom and gloom right now. They find me in a room, and it's like, to Justin's point, it's like they never realize that they have cell phones. Like, why do they have to, like, okay, I take your offer and I'll wait a whole day to get back to you on our counter.
Right.
No, just text whoever else is in charge and just say, this is the counter offer. What do you guys think? And I mean, they should be in a room longer per day than the product is per day. The product that they're putting on the field lasts 3 hours a day, 3.5 hours. They should be meeting for longer than the length of a baseball game each day, at the very least. And to Chris's point, I don't need them. I don't need them to love what they're putting out there. I just need them to respect the product on the field. And I feel like Manfred's side and the owners think that there's something wrong with the game fundamentally, and they're trying to fix it. And this is their opportunity to kind of tinker with the financials. And then that's kind of like the bridge to let's tinker with the game more on the field. And I don't see a level of respect for the game. And I don't care if it's old school, new school baseball. I just want baseball. I've been watching college baseball, and they're getting it right. And
give me a week. I'm going to be covering college baseball.
Yeah, you got upsets all over the place.
I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you.
With MLB, it's just Manfred and Clark have to meet more than once on February 25th when the deadline is the 28th. No
question. I mean, I think obviously, again, why didn't you guys meet December 25th? Why didn't you guys meet even January the 25th? And that brings me, of course, to the brute force Brad Weiss, who I'm expecting some forceful comments here. I mean, there have been a little bit more progress made between players and owners. Is it all in vain, or are we any closer to a season? Brad, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to go right off Patrick. And for all those who want some brute force trivia here, I'll give you one. My favorite word is respect. So Patrick using the word respect many times in his comments is very good. My favorite word, respect. But to his point, baseball is not being respected by their own right now. And for everybody's points that they made here, it's just the reason why I'm going to be the least optimistic person on this panel right now. Because ultimately, there's no reason to be optimistic. I mean, every day I got to see Max Scherzer and Brandon Nimmo and Jameson Taillon and whoever else is in the meetings, behind these walls, in Jupiter, Florida, and just coming right back out. And the next day, you got to see Scherzer's porch back in, and you come back out, and come back in. I mean, this is what we're watching in March, in February. For God's sake, it's almost March. Almost March, okay? But it's February, it's almost March, and we're watching the baseball season basically is us watching Max Scherzer pull up in his Porsche for a damn meeting that's doing absolutely nothing. I understand that there's been some progress, but some progress is not good enough. As a coach, yeah, you make a little progress. Well, guess what? We need more. It's not good enough. So we have to continue to get better. And right now, baseball, like you guys said, has had opportunities for so long, and they just haven't gotten it done. What has taken so long? Then why do I have to hear that Clark and Manfred are not even in the meetings? I see Manfred, running for the damn meeting room like he's late. I don't know if he was, but he looked like he was. So that's just the respect that he has for the game. And ultimately, he doesn't mind this happening, and he doesn't care enough, and they're not doing enough. And that's why, in the end, Tom, I am not optimistic at all. I'm with Justin Gianelli. I don't see it being until June 1st, the earliest, that the baseball season begins, because there's just no reason to be optimistic. There really isn't. And ultimately, until I see pen to paper or something like significant, I'm not going to budge from this. It's simply not good enough, and it's simply disgusting to have to see on my feed, basically, or my social media, not that baseball is coming, that Max Scherzer is pulling up in a Porsche in Jupiter, Florida. That is not what I want to see right now for baseball.
Nice call.
Hold on. In Scherzer's defense, you want him to pull up with a 98 Honda Civic? I mean,
he can pull up as a guy, though. I'd rather see him pitching in Port St. Lucie, not going in his Porsche to Jupiter.
Would you have liked him to walk to the destination instead?
No. Listen.
Well, let me ask you, Brad. I mean, because I forgot what car you drive again. I mean, what are you driving actually?
A Chevy Equinox.
Would you want to pick him up maybe and drive him there? And I mean, I don't know, because I mean, what is he supposed to drive up in there? I mean,
I am not here to bash his vehicle or anything like that. All I'm saying is, when I wake up every single morning, all right, to see what's going on with baseball, Tom Bryce, it's not, there's things getting. It's Max Scherzer just pulling up to Jupiter, Florida. Like, yes, it's a nice car, it's a nice vehicle, all that, but I want to see him pitching on the Port St. Lucie mound, and I can't right now. And like everybody said,
I agree with you on that. Listen, and I was reading in the Daily News in the Post this week, and they were, both papers were interviewing people that were there down in spring training, and fans were like, "Yeah, I want to see these guys play," and we're keeping our fingers crossed and everything else. And that kind of leads me to something I was listening to overnight here during the radio this week. I want to ask everybody here, because I'm sure when they hear this on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and also on the Northeast Streaming Sports Channel tomorrow on Roku, I'm sure people watching and listening will kind of have their own thoughts, because we are getting close to that deadline on Monday. For everybody here, and I'm going to go on an over-under, because I've heard a mixed bag here in terms of what's going to happen here with this season. So I'm going to go with Billy first and work my way around the room here. Billy, what do you think the over-under will be on a number of games for the Major League Baseball season this year?
All right, so I'm going to say, because my answer, I said I'm cautious optimistic that they'll get a full season. So
right.
I'm wrong. If they don't, I put the over-under at 81. I think they end up cutting the season in half, and I think if nothing gets done, I don't know how realistic June 1st is the start date. I think if nothing gets done by Monday, then you're not going to see any more movement for quite some time. That's why I think if nothing gets done by Monday, I kind of feel like mid-July would be the start date if it doesn't start on time. So I think either a full season or a half season. I don't see any real middle ground there. where we get 100 games or 120 games.
I think I heard 100 to 114 was what most callers last night were saying. They were saying they thought if they don't get the deal done by Monday, they'll look at like 100 to 114 game, one of those abbreviated seasons with no All-Star game. Everything's kind of just condensed, and that's the gist of it.
That would be hard. That would be so depressing.
Yeah.
Well, it could happen. I mean, Justin, we heard your take on it, but I'll still ask anyway. I mean, what's your over/under on the total games of the season here for Major League Baseball?
So I'm gonna go 90. There's gonna be 90 games.
And if it's rough, I mean, the Brute drives a 1974 Gremlin. I mean, does anybody have one of those still?
Negative.
Do I have to comment on this? I mean, come on, John Gonzalez. This is the first comment you got today, John Gonzalez? Really? This is what you got?
Oh, shots fired already.
And shots have been fired all around the world the last couple of days. So when we hear shots fired, we're all kind of like a little terrified right now. So, I mean,
okay, so I have an exact formula how I arrived on my 90.
Talk to me, God. I'd love to hear it.
So So obviously there is going to have to be some form of interleague, but
right.
I believe that they're going to cut the divisional schedule down to 12 games. So that's 12 times 4, and so like let's take the Mets for example. 12 times 4 is 48, and then you're going to cover 42 other games, and there's probably going to be one National League team in outside the division that so you get 10. There's 10 other teams in the division. You multiply that by 3. That's 30, and then you play one other division. For the extra 10 games.
Right.
So that's how I arrive at 90, and then you start June 1st.
90, yeah, I could see 90 was June 1st. Let's see, season ends, I'm assuming first weekend in October, 4 months, 120 days roughly. Yeah, I could see that. So you're getting essentially 1 day a week off, maybe 2 at most. So
right, down to a 6-day schedule, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, Chris, I mean, so over under in the Major League Baseball season, what do you got?
I'm going to be the optimist because I know no one else wants to be. So
I'll give you my number after everybody else is done, so don't worry.
I don't think it's going to be that long. I don't think it's going to be – I think we're going to miss maybe a week or two. That's about it. I really think it's going to – I think this is going to be over within a week or two because if not, then it's going to be ridiculous, and then we're going to get into what you guys are talking about. But I think it'll be done in like a week. Maybe by the end of next week, I think it's going to be done, and we'll be talking about spring training and all that. So maybe they miss a week of games. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Well, because I have a follow-up for you, Chris.
Yeah.
You're saying that they're going to get the deal done within a week. Do you think MLB softens their stance on canceling the game permanently? And if it's only like, let's say 6 or 7 games, they'll throw that in later on as a makeup.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that possibly.
Okay.
But that's only if it's done, say by the end of this coming week. You know, like if it takes say 2 weeks, then I think they're going to say, all right, we can't make up those games. We're going to play 140 or whatever, 150.
Gotcha.
That would be what the 95 season was, an 144 game season.
Yeah.
And there is kind of precedent to what Chris said, because I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, the 1990 season started a week late, and they wound up eventually playing the season, but there was a brief lockout. I think I'm pretty sure on this. There was a brief lockout, but they wound up starting like a week later, and they wound up finishing the season. There was something happened there with that. So there is some precedent to some of the things that you said here. So, all right. So not bad here. Get a little bit of optimism. And Patrick, I mean, I'm expecting not so optimism from you after your comments earlier. So give me your over-under on the MLB season.
Look, I hope it's the full season. I highly doubt it. I'm kind of thinking like 120-ish. I have a hard time thinking that they're going to play half a season. I think they're going to want over 100 games. They don't want that whole 60 game season again type of thing. But
that would be terrible for baseball. I mean, I was listening to people call up about that, and to have a 60 game baseball season,
terrible.
Yeah.
2 out of 3
Within
years.
the next week or so, if they can't get it done, there could be a long delay. but eventually they're going to come back to the table, and there's just too much money to be made. So I would say like 120.
Okay, all right, that's fair. At least can fit. We kind of had a broad range of spectrums here when it comes to this. I mean, the brute force. I mean, I'm expecting something very interesting here out of your mouth. So give me the over under on the games.
Yeah, well, I want to be as brutal as Justin with 90. I do, because I'm very, like I said, I am not optimistic at all. But I'm going to go a little higher, just, change the numbers up. Since everybody's going different, I might as well too. And my number I'm looking at, and to those radio listeners that you were talking about earlier, Tom Bryce, I'm kind of right in that boat. I'm going to say 110. 110 is going to be my number. I think, to everybody's point, I think they will try to find a way to get over 100 games. I hate to say it, and I don't want to say it, but that's that dumb 7-inning doubleheader rule. I could see that playing a factor.
No.
Yeah.
Don't even try that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I can see it. I can see them adding games and making those 7-inning doubleheaders on certain days of the week. So I could see some silly things in Major League Baseball. We've seen it all at this point. I could see that happening. And ultimately, it's just, again, it's something where we're talking over under at 110. I'm going to smash the under right now because I'm not confident, but I'm going to keep it at that number at 110.
So I'm going to give you my number, and I'm going to come on with it in a couple different ways. Not as obviously educated or calculated as Justin, but I'm going to say 144 games, similar to the 95 season. The reason I'm going to come up with that is because I'm going to assume that players and owners agree to some type of agreement here in the coming days, maybe even in a few weeks. And that would put the season starting right around, I would say, close to May 1st. And then that would be the similar timeline that we had in the 95 season when they came back. It was essentially a season. I think it was like late April, and we went into early October. So I'm going to go and say that they may not exactly get to what they want on Monday, but they're going to be very close. And I'm going to assume and expect that they're going to get something done maybe 2 weeks after that or something like that. And I'm going to take not the full optimistic tone and say we're going to get a full 162, but I think we're going to get at least, I would say, 144 games. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think that the fans would be still happy with that, because baseball in May is a lot better than watching in March and April, because Patrick brought up college baseball, and college baseball started last week. And I don't know still how these guys are playing in like 25-degree weather and 30-degree weather. So to reasonably have a season with spring training and to get everything where it's on time and all those guys can get into the condition that they need, I think 144 games is the season that we're going to have. That's just my take on it and kind of what we're going to have on that. So,
to your point, though, Tom, and it's kind of what I said to Chris's point, is, in my opinion, anything under 20 games missed, I feel like MLB is going to soften their stance and they're going to find those games later on.
okay.
Yeah, that's very possible.
So if we're starting to talk like 140, 135, then that's going to be a hard number. We're not making 30 games up, but they could find, like they could turn every Sunday into a doubleheader Sunday and then give most teams Monday off,
If it's Brad's 7-inning doubleheader idea, I want no part of that again.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I want to make it clear that is not my idea. Don't attach my name to that idea. That's not my idea. That's what I think they might do.
Yeah, you can't even bring that up, though.
Anyone who likes 7-inning doubleheaders needs to log off the show right now.
Those are words we don't want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Behind the 7-inning doubleheader.
Jason's just upset because he was begging me to come today, so I didn't get back to him on that because I was busy. But ultimately, I just want to say one thing, Tom Bryce. Where's John Gonzalez? I want to hear his number. I want to see who he agrees with here. John Gonzalez, give me a number. What is it?
You know what's funny about John? Because John was messaging me on Facebook. He was direct messaging me, actually asking me when the show is, and he was doing his brute force impressions. We were talking back and forth throughout the week, and yeah, I was kind of excited to hear from John Gonzalez. When we got the one comment, he chimed in, and he's all, I
There
guess,
we
I don't
go.
know. Maybe he was just annoyed that Brad said he was going to respond. I don't know. But listen, to me, at the end of the day, I think 144 games, I'll take something. But I think to have a 90-game season, like Justin pointed out, even a 110, I think Brad said 110, or anything like that in terms of a season, I mean, just be, really bad for baseball. But we'll keep our fingers crossed here for sure, to say the least. And speaking of, I guess maybe fingers, they might want to have kept to themselves. And I almost have to bring it up, even though we're kind of late to the party on this one, but we've got a couple of people who I kind of think would be really curious to know their opinions on. And that is obviously the whole situation with Juwan Howard in Michigan, and obviously a number of different opinions and things. And I listen, we are on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. I know that there's a lot of people, the huge basketball station over there. Huge shout out, as always, to Desmond Johnson for all the work he does in supporting us. And I know a lot of people there are huge basketball fans. And I almost have to ask, because we've got different former athletes on here and coaches currently, kind of what everybody thought of that whole situation. So I'm going right off to the jugular. I'm going with the brute force Brad Weiss, because he just played recently. He coaches. He's a big man himself. I've seen him get physical in the paint. I've seen him get nasty with players. And so the brute force, I mean, you got to talk to me about your thoughts on this whole Juwan Howard situation last week and just the repercussions from it.
Yeah, well, what you haven't seen me do, Tom Bryce, is you haven't seen me slap an assistant coach or go off as a coach like that. That was really, really bad. That Juwan Howard did that, and honestly, the old-fashioned player part of him was what came out. It wasn't the professional coach that came out of him. It was his old, player personality. But he's a great guy. He's never had a bad rap. He's always been a well-respected player.
I
when he
always
was
liked
playing.
Juwan Howard. I always liked
So even when he was playing, I don't think anybody really saw this in him. But, as a coach, you got to understand that, it's tough. You lost. Yes, a timeout at the end of the game like that is not always a great look. But you got to keep yourself under control. If you don't like it, just move on out of the game. Don't create a scene in front of fans, and especially in front of your own players. I mean, look at how the players reacted after he did that. I mean, that is exactly what you don't want to see. That is exactly what you don't want to show, and don't want to condemn that behavior. And that is what happened. And the fact that he lost is cool. There's been different sides of the story, but ultimately the end of it is, he went and he obviously hit the assistant coach over the head, and then the whole on thing happened, and ultimately, it just became an ugly scene, and he's very, very lucky that he was not fired. He was just suspended for the rest of the season, which some people are arguing he should have been suspended for the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. But he's lucky that he just got the regular season. Yeah. So as a coach, that is something that I'm going to look as something I will not do ever. And I'm going to learn from that, because I'm not going to make sure I never look like that. That's number one. But as a player, I understand that emotions do run high at times, but you still have to compose yourself. And at the end of games, you still have to shake the other team's hand and say, good game. And this is the last thing I'll say before I hand it over to everybody else. This whole nonsense about in college that they want to get away with shaking hands at the end of the game, that is utterly ridiculous.
That's nonsense. 100%.
We talk about college athletics and how, you're supposed to teach all these different things. One of the first things we hear when we have compliance meetings is, how to respect your opponent and how to, all these different things with compliance. And the fact that they would take that away is basically taking all that and saying, we don't care about it anymore. We don't care about compliance. We don't care about respect. That's what college athletes are taught to do, is to respect the opponent after the game. And ultimately, that better not happen, because I will not be happy. And ultimately, Jason, ultimately, I will just not be happy if that's the case. But overall, Juwan Howard didn't look good. He's lucky he still has his job. And that was a bad look for Michigan as a university that their coach did that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Juwan Howard also, so take a step back. I mean, here's a guy that's an all-time great and certainly had a distinguished career in the NBA, and I always liked Juwan Howard for whatever reason. It doesn't sound totally stupid, but I used to love collecting his basketball cards. I used to just love Juwan Howard, just his photos with the Washington Bullets, and then later on he played in Dallas and Miami, had a long career. Not quite a Hall of Famer, but he played forever. So, I mean, clearly this is the contrary in terms of what we thought of Juwan Howard. I mean, Patrick, give me your thoughts on this whole situation with Juwan Howard.
It's really unfortunate. I agree with a lot of what the brute force said. I mean, getting rid of the handshakes I think that's ridiculous at the end of a game. To get away from that, I think is ridiculous. I think this was Juwan Howard. Wasn't this his second time? Didn't he have an altercation or an almost altercation with the Maryland coach a couple of years ago?
Mark Turgeon, yes.
Mark Turgeon, where they had to.
It didn't turn physical like this.
It didn't turn physical, but I mean, if that's the hairs that were splitting, I think he should have been fired because I look, I'm all for a second chance, but have that second chance somewhere else. That's what the second chance is about. Someone else can play the redemption story. He's a leader of young men. He's supposed to be, as a coach, the brute force can talk about this better, but as a coach, you're supposed to lead by example. And I think that's why it kind of escalated after the first punch or shove was thrown. It's because the student athletes see that their coach is doing something, and well, if he can do it, then I can do it. And I just think it's unfortunate.
And especially with Juwan Howard, right? I mean, here's a guy that has a stature. He's not just a coach. I mean, he was a very, very, very good college basketball player and had a very, very good career in the NBA. And, of course, Anthony Finkel is in here. And, of course, I know Anthony Finkel, he's going to take the side of Juwan Howard because I saw when he and John Gonzalez were talking about during the week in John Gonzalez's Sports Authorities group. So, clearly, Anthony Finkel is going to take the side of Juwan Howard. I'm sure I'll get a comment or two from him because I'm sure Anthony Finkel is still down there in Florida. And then Anthony chimes in here and says, Friday night sports night with the boys here checking in from Cape Coral, Florida. Listen, Anthony, give us some of that sunshine, although it was very nice here Wednesday, but maybe give us some of that like 40 degrees extra weather you can from down there. But huge shout out to Anthony Finkel, Big Fink, of course, from DPH Property Management. Does a great job, of course, for all of your construction needs, whether it's junk, whether it's remodeling, shoveling, whatever it might be. Anthony is all over the place here in the tri-state area. Please do get in touch with him on Facebook at Anthony J. Finkel for more information. So, Chris, I mean, you're the Michigan guy, so automatically I know off the bat Chris is going to have a very, very different take than some other people here. Not so much for whether Juwan Howard was right or wrong, but he knows the team, he knows the program. So give me your thoughts here on this whole situation with Juwan Howard.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between. I mean, I thought the penalty was fine, but I thought maybe the university should have actually said, you know what, you're done for the year, and put him on some kind of a leave and then decide what you want to do. Like, do you want to fire him? Because he did have that one other, altercation. It wasn't a physical, but, it's a tough situation, especially, if this was a smaller college and you got a big name coach, all right, maybe you're going to think about, you got to think twice about getting rid of him. But, I mean, Michigan is Michigan. They should have, and they already have their off the field issues too. Not off the field, but if you've seen it, there was issues with some doctor that was supposedly molesting wrestlers, I think. Was it wrestling or even football players? But anyway, that was a whole other thing. And that was just on the news not too long ago. So for them to still keep him, I was actually a little surprised because I thought maybe, hey, you know what? We got to start cleaning up our act. We can't have all these negative stuff about us. And, it's all about money and everything. So I was surprised. I'll be honest. It's something obviously 100% wrong. I know the other coach was putting his hands on him. I mean, he wasn't grabbing him. He was just, trying to talk to him. Definitely not the right thing to do. If the guy's coming at you and he's telling you, don't touch me. Yeah, that's when he should have stopped touching him. So he was wrong too, but I don't think he deserved a slap in the face. But,
and it wasn't even that guy that he hit.
Right, exactly. It was another guy. Right. So who knows? Maybe the other guy said something that was even worse than what he was saying to him. I don't know, but it was awful. It's awful for the university. It's awful for college basketball.
Absolutely. That's the main point. I mean, friend Anthony Finkel, my very good friend Anthony Finkel. Again, I told you Anthony was going to have something explosive, and He says here, Juwan Howard did
I was
nothing
saying,
wrong.
yeah.
Opposing coach.
I didn't
putting
want to
his
say
hands
that.
on him.
I didn't want to say that.
Oh, I didn't want to say it either because we are on the radio now. I know I can see Desmond Johnson. I can imagine him listening to us tomorrow. And they're saying, what? The Sportswire guys are condoning Juwan Howard's actions? I mean, God forbid. I mean, but
No.
The other guy was at fault too. I think both can be true. The
Okay.
Wisconsin
Tell
coach
me why.
could get suspended for a couple games, and Howard gets fired because you escalated.
But
the
you got to do
situation.
better than that. You
Okay,
gotta
so
do
you gotta be
before I
better.
get to
You gotta-
Justin and Billy, let me ask this question. Anybody can jump in. Did Juwan Howard maybe keep his job because his name is Juwan Howard?
I think so.
Yeah.
Brad, I kind of see you on the fence.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, him being Jawan Howard helps, but I do think
That's one
I
way to
do
look
think
at it,
that a lot of other coaches who have records of being like really good established coaches that are trusted, I do think that those coaches would have potentially also get a second opportunity, even though if they're not named Jawan Howard. So. I'm kind of on the fence on that one, but I think more or less it's not just because of Juwan Howard. I think other people would get it even though they're not named Juwan Howard. But ultimately, I agree with the guys too about the other coach. Yeah, he probably should have backed off a little bit, but ultimately he didn't do like enough for Juwan Howard to have to do that, and then to slap the assistant. I mean, that was just a little. I mean, whether he was talking or not, you got to relax there as a coach. You got to calm down. You got to. Understand the situation and calm down.
Yes, and Howard was one of the legendary Fab Five at Michigan. Yes, John Gonzalez. That was kind of implying that in terms of his name, Juwan Howard, and Anthony Finkel was kind of funny. And I got to almost just say it on the give Howard a raise, much watch TV. And listen, Big Fink, if this was wrestling, for my wrestling fans, of course, those who listen to us for our wrestling talk here on Sportswire Radio, I mean, that'd be a no-brainer. Listen, we'd have Juwan Howard at WrestleMania. WrestleMania's coming up. I mean, Juwan Howard would make an excellent fit there. He's got the size, he's got the look. I mean, he'd certainly be a great fit for that, but obviously we're talking about college basketball. I mean, Justin, I know I didn't get a chance to fully ask you, but you chimed in there just before. Anything else you want to add on this whole Juwan Howard situation?
Yeah, and look, you can't completely dismiss, and let Greg Gard get off free. He didn't need to put his hands on him, but it wasn't in any form of violent way. And Juwan Howard, I mean, clearly Juwan Howard has something that triggers his brain when it comes to timeouts. There's something about timeouts in Michigan that go horribly wrong.
Oh boy.
Listen,
that was a hip below the belt, Justin.
Yeah, well, Chris Webber's got to use his head next time.
Yes,
Well, that was John Gonzalez's point. So clearly, you and John Gonzalez did agree on that one.
100%. But here's the thing. And this is what gets me the most about Michigan. If you're upset about Greg Gard calling a timeout when he's got his backups in and you have your starters in, and listen, I watched this entire game start to finish. So the game was over. Why are you playing press defense against five guys who average maybe 3 minutes of game time on the court? Why are you playing press defense?
XR coached that right there.
So
he could answer this.
Yeah. but that's why Greg Gard was trying to explain about why he called the timeout. The kid lost his shoe that forced a stoppage, but it didn't reset the clock. They only had 4 seconds to get across the timeline. So he called timeout to reset the 10 seconds. So, but why are you playing press defense if the game is over? So that's why I didn't have any problem with the timeout. I mean, at that point, Michigan's still playing full on with their starters. Well, Wisconsin's called off the dogs. And look, he will not be. And he's fired after 2 years. But listen, if Juwan Howard said to Greg Gard, "Don't touch me," that's one thing. But regardless, that doesn't excuse you from slapping an assistant coach and creating an altercation. And yes, they won on Wednesday against Rutgers, but you got one of their best players, Diamante, suspended because he also got into he threw a right hand, he threw a punch. So, Juwan Howard unnecessarily caused all of this, and I think it should have been regular season and Big Ten tournament, but.
And the NIT, because they're going to probably be an NIT team, right?
Yeah, they're not a tournament team this year. They're not that good.
Yeah.
I think they're 15-11 right now.
They're going to be their NIT. That's what they're going to be.
Yeah, you know what? They're actually on the bubble. They're close to the they're on that like last four in, first four out scenario right now.
Yeah.
They're really on the bubble, but they're going to have to do damage in the Big Ten tournament.
I still think they'll get in the NIT, but
that's where I think they end up too.
That's my point.
That's where they belong anyway. We don't need them in the Big Ten.
It'll be Big Ten tournament, NIT, regular season. Everybody.
Yeah, because I don't think they'll go far in the Big Ten tournament, and that's going to end any hope for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no question. And funny,
that's fine. We don't need them in anyway.
And Anthony Finkel, again, I got to get into because I was listening to Anthony and John Gonzalez banter back and forth in the Sports Authorities group, and Anthony said it was good for basketball, all this. So, I mean, he said it was like the good old days of the 90s when the Knicks were in. I will say one thing. I mean, listen, Latrell Sprewell did choke PJ Carlesimo, and he was out for the entire regular season. I mean, not to say this was that bad as compared to that, but, I mean, that was a pretty severe suspension back in the day. I mean, Bill, I know you don't cover this stuff too much, but any thought real quick on Juwan Howard before we move on and talk some football?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn because, like, I do understand that, like, the guy, grabbed you when you told him to stop grabbing you. He didn't grab you. Right. So I do get it. But you're also, like Brad said, you're a coach and you're a coach of amateur players. At some point, look, if the guy grabbed him, like, on the street and did that, yeah, no problem, but when you're in that capacity as a coach of amateur players, you need to show, I think, more self-control than you otherwise would. So I think that's really kind of my issue with it more than the fact that he did start this, is that, he did it in the role as a coach, and especially a coach of, people who are still developing, mentally and physically. I think that's really the big issue here with what Juwan Howard did.
No question about it, and all those things. And the last thing I'll say on this before we move on, because I do want to get to some other topics for the next hour or so that we have here on the stream. Brad, at our level, I could never imagine this happening in a college basketball game, Brad. At our level, at the D3 level, or even at the USCA level, because we're going to have on Coach Alfaro with the Five-Town Sound, the women's basketball team, before they play in the Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference championship game tomorrow afternoon. I could never imagine at our level Mike McSloy choking out Ryan Highland. I mean, I might enjoy that just as funny popcorn for movie theater action, but I could never imagine that happening. I mean, those are obviously two friends of the show. That's why I could drop their names, but certainly I could never imagine, Brad, at our level that would happen. I could never imagine that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And like I said, when it comes to, I'm a high school coach. I know NCAA coaches. There's a lot of training and a lot of time that coaches have to put in to become a coach. And part of that training and part of that, learning to become a coach, shows how you have to represent yourself in front of these student athletes. And ultimately, Juwan Howard is not really, again, I don't think he was thinking like a coach. He was thinking like a player. That is the way
he was thinking like he was back on the street playing street jail rules. Remember the old jail rule day? That's what he was thinking.
Exactly. And that's what his players ended up looking like. I mean, they looked like guys that were on the street just trying to, fight each other. And that's just not what college basketball is all about. I know it from being a player in the NCAA. I know that they're really harsh and hard on this type of stuff. And this is not what they want to see represented. So, as much as Anthony Finkel wants to see it,
and he's another big man, Brad. I would love to see. He's a huge basketball fan also. I would love to see you and him on the court because that would be an interesting matchup. He's another 6 foot plus big man also, Anthony J. Fink. That's why we call him in the neighborhood Big Fink. I would love to see you and him on the court.
That's definitely funny. But, listen, I was just, as Jason was trying to rip me about earlier, I was just playing. We just won our men's league championship. And I was playing and I'm still a little sore from a couple of days ago. So, I don't know.
I'm sure every single day I get up from delivering the Staten Island Advance for 3 hours a day. I'm up and it's like, fill in the blanks. Like, I have to get up still. I mean, so I can only imagine being on the court for 2+ hours. I mean, but obviously, again, those are some things that we are talking here as we are on Sportswire Radio. We'll be on Northeast Streaming Sports Channel on Roku tomorrow night. That'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We will also be on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. Figure, I guess, between 12:30 and 1 the show will air. I think Desmond's been scheduling us right around those times, and you can catch us there on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. For more information on the Northeast Streaming Sports Channel, please follow them on Facebook at Northeast Streaming Sports Channel. I think we're over 2,000 likes or close to about that number on the page. Also, if you have Roku, all you have to do is download Northeast Streaming Sports Channel. You can catch, of course, us and also shows like the Talking Rivals, the Pinstripe Chronicles, and a few other shows that we have here on the team. And we are talking all things related here to the world of sports with 5 of my guys from Sportswire Radio. That includes Billy McInerney, former Elite Sports, Justin Gianelli with a new haircut. By the way, like the haircut, Justin. You got a new haircut there from the Baseball Banter Show. And obviously Chris Pizzea of the Talking Rivals Show, also the Liftoff Jet Show. And of course, Liftoff Jet Show is one of my more favorite ones. Here we had Andrew Golden was in the house. And Andrew's got 30 shows. He's got 31 podcasts that he hosts. I mean, seriously, he was rattling them all off, and I'm listening to him like, how does this guy find time to do anything? But obviously, great show. We'll continue to play the Liftoff Jet Show throughout the week. And also, Patrick Trotty, brand new book, doing very well. Also, the Talking Rivals Show, and the Brute Force Brad Weiss, of course, the always beloved SJC Long Island Golden Eagle alum, Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV coach, also with the Level Up Long Island Nets and the LI Brew Crew, as the boys are going to be back in town. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, please give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great shows anytime on sportnarium.com/player. And I also, before I forget, want to take the time to congratulate also the John Jay College Bloodhounds, the women's basketball team, and Linda Day. Of course, Coach Day came on not once but twice in the last week to talk about the team as they came up just short in the CUNY Athletic Conference Championship game against Brooklyn College and gave Brooklyn College arguably their best run of the season, lost a heartbreak of 59-51. We expect the Bloodhounds to be in the postseason in the ECAC tournament, so something tells me we'll be speaking with Coach Day here very soon. So congratulate the girls on the season. What a great game, hard-fought season. Also looking forward to speaking with our old friend Anthony Alfaro and Greg Drizel coming up here in the near and distant future. Well, I'll be speaking with Coach Alfaro tomorrow night as our girls' Five-Town Sound women's basketball team will be in the Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Championship game Sunday afternoon. They will also be in the USCAA tournament as a 9th seed, so looking forward to it. They will be in action in the tournament. March the 7th, Coach Durzel and his team have 2 games to see if they can figure out they'll be in the tournament. So looking forward to speaking with both gentlemen. You can follow the Five-Town Sound Athletics program anytime on Instagram at @5towns_sound. And we are talking all things related here to the world of sports here with the Sportswire Radio Gang team. And guys, I want to talk about football here because there's a number of different news here. Maybe I'll work in a USFL thought or two for fun, but the main thing is here, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, as always, is the talk of things. And I almost got to ask everybody here, I mean, what's going on with Aaron Rodgers? I'm looking at the Sportswire Radio group on Twitter, and I see some conversation about him retiring. Now I see some conversation about him coming back maybe to Green Bay, which I didn't think was going to be feasible. And let's start that conversation here with our very good friend Billy McInerney. I mean, Billy, what's going on with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, well, Aaron Rodgers is kind of a weirdo. I think we've known that for a while.
Kind of a weirdo, Billy? I'm a weird guy myself. He's a weirdo.
We've known that for a while. I don't know if anybody knows what's going on inside of his brain, including him. But I ultimately think that he's not going to be playing for the team. It's also interesting that the Packers GM said something along the lines of, he never promised to trade Rodgers recently. I ultimately think that Rodgers ends up staying with the Packers. I think if they can get something for Jordan Love, trade him. If not, they might release him. I think ultimately they're going to end up giving him the commitment that, he wants him to give. I still think there's an outside chance that he retires, but I don't know after winning 2 straight MVPs that he's ready to walk away from football just yet. And I don't think that there's really a better situation for him to walk into than Green Bay. I mean, maybe Denver, but some of their guys, they have a lot of guys on first contracts that they're going to have to get re-signed, and salary cap wise that may not work with the kind of money Rodgers is looking for. Whereas I think Green Bay's in so deep that they're fine doing what the Saints were doing with Drew Brees and basically just, doing whatever they need to get cap compliant and keep everybody and, just take the hit when Rodgers walks away. Same thing the Saints did with Brees. So I ultimately think he's going to end up being in the Packers for a few more years.
I mean, because again,
maybe he goes to the USFL. Who knows?
I'd love that. I mean, listen, USFL. Listen, I mean, why not? I mean, listen, there's precedent for that. I mean, listen, some great quarterbacks played in the USFL. I'm sure John Gonzalez can give me the history lesson on that for
Not
sure.
this year, based on the draft.
Well, that's true too.
I was just there.
I mean, listen, I was trying to give it that oomph, but obviously, I'm sure Mr. Gonzalez can certainly say that. And he says here, Rodgers will be back in Green Bay. We all know that. I mean, do we? I really don't know at this point. I mean, Justin, I can't figure out this guy, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he writes on Instagram and he writes about all his exes. Then he goes on Pat McAfee's show and he says this and that. I just listen. And again, I'm a weird guy. I'm the first to admit it. I'm definitely a weird duck. We all are weird ducks in some ways. And then there's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, certainly when I think of more of the reserved quarterbacks, like in the past, a Troy Aikman, for an example, a Joe Montana, or even a Dan Marino.
Sure, we'll get to Aikman in a little too.
That was my segue for the next one. So, Justin, you clearly know what we're doing here on Sportswire Radio. But, I mean, what is going on with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, first of all, I'd like to ask the group here, has anyone tried the Panchakarma cleanse?
Nope. Haven't been either. And he's not going to San Francisco, by the way.
He's definitely Aaron Rodgers is definitely out there. I think I've been one of the few all along. I never once thought he's leaving Green Bay. And
really, you never thought? I mean, we got Steve Saperstein, but he's saying San Francisco, which kind of
he'll never go to San Francisco.
No, because you know why? You know why he won't go to San Francisco? They won't trade him there. There's too much recency and recent history between the 49ers and the Packers, especially with the 49ers eliminating the Packers. I think two of the last three times.
A few times I would add as well.
Season.
Yep.
I don't think that Green Bay will do San Francisco a favor and give him Aaron Rodgers. So
why not Tennessee, by the way? Wouldn't Tennessee make sense?
Tennessee trade up for Trey Lance either.
All right. So here's the issue with Tennessee. All
right, go ahead, Justin.
Here's the issue with Tennessee. Tennessee is not in good cap shape, and the dead cap money for Ryan Tannehill, $57 million.
Wow. I mean,
Ryan Tannehill right now, Ryan Tannehill is unmovable. So they're going to be stuck with him. They don't have the necessary cap space. And Green Bay, while they're $46 million over the cap, they're starting to maneuver things and manipulate the cap, turning the salary into signing bonus, roster bonuses, and they're starting to restructure some of these contracts because not only that, they want to fit in a contract for Devontae Adams. That's the other snowball effect that comes with this whole Aaron Rodgers situation. And, I mean, Aaron Rodgers wants to be paid close to $50 million, but you have to remember that the Packers probably need Aaron Rodgers to be around 16 to 18% max of the cap space. Right now, he's taken up about 22.
Oof.
And if he's taken up a quarter of the cap, they're not going to be able to fill out a roster. And so, but when push comes to shove, I think there's going to be all these cap manipulations that's going to allow Aaron Rodgers to stay in Green Bay. So, yeah, I've never once believed that he was actually going to leave the Packers, especially at this point. And so I do think at some point in this offseason, there's going to be an extension done. And, yeah, we'll see what the future holds for Jordan Love, because just a couple of years ago, he was taken with, I think, 26th or 27th overall pick.
They traded up for him, too.
In the first round.
Yep.
So, you know, and he doesn't really hold much value because in 2 years, we really haven't seen him. And when we did see him, it was really
not much. Yeah, not much. Not much at all.
Horrendous against Kansas City. So, Rodgers stays.
And
Sorry, Billy. Jump in, Billy. Jump in.
One more
Talk
thing
to
about
me.
San Francisco. I don't think Rodgers wants to go there. I'm sure he's still pissed that they took Alex Smith over him how many years ago. There's
Exactly.
Oh, point. That's a great point.
No, you know what? I think he would want to go there because he's from there and everything. I think he would want to go there.
Nah,
And
there's
I
a
think
lot
that's
of
where
bad
Steve
feelings.
kind of
with
came
that.
up with that. Steve
It makes
Sackett.
sense. I just think the one thing that Aaron Rodgers is unquestionably better at than anyone else in the NFL is holding a grudge.
Right.
So I just
Yeah.
there's a part of me that
Not
thinks he still holds that grudge for taking Alex Smith over him, especially because like the reasons were kind of not necessarily not football related, but the reasons were kind of dumb reasons. I remember reading something about it, and it was like all things like, oh, Alex Smith like held the car door open for his mother and stuff like that. Like that doesn't really affect how you play in the football field. So I ultimately think that Aaron Rodgers holds enough of a grudge against San Francisco that he doesn't really want to go there. So that's just one more thing,
This is going to be totally unrelated. This reminds me, and again, I really don't sleep much, but I was watching a movie a couple of days ago, and it was with former UFC star Quentin Rampage Jackson, and that was kind of the premise of the movie. He was actually sort of a framed bank robber, and he kills one of the people in the movie because he held this grudge, and the guy framed him for killing his father when it was the cop that did it, and the cop completely forgot about the whole thing, and he held on to this grudge, and then he kind of faked the whole bank robbery, and for whatever reason, that whole Aaron Rodgers thing, Aaron Rodgers could have so been Quentin Rampage Jackson in this movie. So but it was 2:00 in the morning, and I'm watching a direct from TV movie, so clearly that shows you that what I was doing. But obviously, I mean, Chris, Aaron Rodgers, I just can't figure this guy out. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, he's definitely out there. You know what? I've been saying since last offseason that I thought this year was going to be his last season in Green Bay. So I'm going to stick with it. And another big reason, too, I don't think he's going to San Fran because they did move up to get Trey Lance. They gave up a lot to draft Trey Lance. So I think he's taking over in San Fran. So I don't think San Fran's an option. Tennessee, like Justin said, that's a no-go either because of that. I was thinking of that this week, and then I looked at that cap situation and Tannehill, and I was like, nope, that can't happen either. So, yeah, I definitely think he's going to get traded. And also, too, even if he wanted to stay, he's going to stay and then not going to be able to keep Devontae Adams. There's no way they're going to be able to keep him because if he wants $45 million, like that number's been being thrown out, Adams wants like 20 or 25 million a year. So how are you going to keep two guys making $70 million between just two guys? And they have cap issues to begin with. So I don't think he's coming back. I think they're going to franchise Adams. They're going to figure that out because if they're going to go with Jordan Love, he's going to need as much help as possible. So I would think they're going to want to keep Devontae Adams. Billy mentioned Denver. I've been saying Denver is the best.
You've been saying Denver for a while. You've been saying Denver for like 3 months.
And I think the only other team I could think of really that would be a good spot for him, but I don't know if they're going to trade within the conference, is Carolina. Carolina, I think if you put Aaron Rodgers on that team, they're a pretty good team. They just
But
don't.
would he want to go to Carolina though?
Yeah,
right.
Here's a double-edged sword with Aaron Rodgers here if he gets traded. Right now, being the Green Bay quarterback, he has a walk-in to the playoffs. Chicago's not good. Detroit's not good. Minnesota, We're not sure what they're going to be next year. And will Kirk Cousins be the quarterback next year? That's another major question.
But
so the double-edged sword is okay. Trade him to the AFC. Well, the AFC's got all these really young talented quarterbacks.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
And you want it, if Aaron Rodgers, let's say, wants to go to, let's say, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay.
That's an interesting story.
Tampa Bay is a quarterback situation right now.
Absolutely.
But does Green Bay want to trade within the NFC? They don't. So it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
And I think one of the factors of why this actually might be able to work from a cap situation with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers is after 2022, DirecTV and the NFL Sunday Ticket, that's no more. And it sounds like Amazon's going to pick that up for a major number.
Well, we're going to be getting to Amazon in a few minutes.
And guess what? That's going to raise the salary cap even higher.
Yeah, but not enough. I don't think it's going to make it that much more.
It could the salary cap could reach close to 220 million.
So you know what you're
Yeah,
telling us
go
there,
up.
Justin? That Amazon Prime subscriptions are going to go up further.
They probably will.
Yeah, that's
Come on.
without a doubt.
Everything's going up. Have you seen the price of gas lately?
I just think, you know what?
I was trying to be kind here. I was trying to be kind.
Think about it. If he stays with Green Bay too, here's the other thing. The last 2 years, they've had home field advantage the last 2 years.
How many times
And
have
they've
Green
done
Bay has
nothing
had
with
home field over the past decade and never
Right.
wins? I mean,
I
there was
think
a
it's time
stat.
for him to move.
There was a stat. I think it was during the game they played against San Francisco that Green Bay prior to 2001 and since 2001 at home, I think had a losing record in the postseason. Whereas before that,
Yeah.
I think they either lost one game in Lambeau or never lost in Lambeau. Whereas now,
They never lost until Michael Vick beat them.
exactly. There you go. That was my point. So
That
I think
was the
they've
game that opened up the can of worms.
They've lost in Lambeau what 6 or 7 times now since then, something like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure they don't. I don't think they have a winning record at Lambeau since
No,
then.
they don't.
I mean,
Yeah, so I don't know if it is an easier route to go through the NFC, but they've had the easier route the last 2 years.
they've
and they
had
haven't
easy
taken
the last
advantage of
10 years. How many times have they come up short, either in an NFC Championship
Absolutely.
game or at home?
Wow.
I mean, it's
Well,
a
I
lot.
said
I
it.
mean,
I brought it up the last time we were talking. I think, or a couple of episodes ago. I think he's only won more than one playoff game in 2 years, in two playoff runs. He's only won more than one playoff game, twice. So,
Right.
and this is a Hall of Fame. This is a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback we're talking about. We're not talking about a borderline. This guy's Hall of Fame, one of the greatest of all time. And, he's got one Super Bowl to his name. So
By
that's
the way,
another one.
do you
By
know
the
what the
way,
moral of the story is? That, by the way, before I get to Justin, we can get to Patrick and the Brute Force. That the Green Bay Packers over their run here with Aaron Rodgers and even going back with Favre, because for the past 30 years they've been in the postseason. I don't know, 20 plus times. They're essentially the Atlanta Braves of the NFL.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
that's a good way to say it. Sure.
That's a good comparison. By the way, wouldn't that be a big bleep you to Ben Roethlisberger if first Tom Brady, now Aaron Rodgers retires, and now all of a sudden his Hall of Fame day is just not even going to be important, or he gets pushed off a year because they don't want too many quarterbacks in.
I'd
Well,
love
the
that.
Brute Force would be very happy about that. Brad would be very happy about that.
Oh God, please! Oh please! I'm waiting my turn with this, please.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. I mean, Patrick. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I know tough facts to follow here so far, but give me your thoughts.
I like Aaron Rodgers. I'm all in on his type of weird. He's a different type of bird. He thinks outside the box.
Right.
There's not even a box where he's thinking. He's in the ashram. He's doing all that stuff. I think he goes to the AFC, and I think he wants to climb that mountain. I think he wants to double down and bet on himself and say, I'll go to the AFC and I'll beat all these young upstarts, and then I'll walk out on top. And I think he goes to that's the problem. Where does he go? Denver.
Denver's the only thing that makes sense.
I could see Denver. I could see, what's Pittsburgh's cap space like?
Not
Talking
good.
about
Not
great
I think we
again.
spoke about that at one point toward the end of the season. I think it was Justin that said Pittsburgh. He didn't think they could.
I think he either goes to the AFC
I actually
and
have
bets on
beef with
himself,
Steve.
or he retires. I don't think he's coming back to Green Bay. I
Why
just,
do you think he really would retire though? Because I feel like with the money that he would get, wouldn't it just make sense for him to play almost go year to year at this point? I mean, he's still at the top of his game. I mean,
Pittsburgh has
without a
space.
doubt.
Just to give everybody-
24 million
They have
I'm
about
looking
$30
at.
million.
Yeah.
So they have space.
all
Not that
right.
they have a good team, but they have space.
Well, listen, you get Rodgers. I mean, listen, they had Roethlisberger, and we saw what they did. If you get Rodgers, I mean, they should still be at least in discussion as a postseason team. It would be credible. I mean,
Good young running back, couple good receivers.
they'd be credible.
That does change the complexion of
line.
Pittsburgh a little bit.
They need a
And John
line.
Gonzalez chimes in. Let me get to John Gonzalez, of course. So the appetite here for the Brute Force. And he says, Patrick is right. Denver is the only other option. Yeah, listen, Denver would make a lot of sense. I think they need a quarterback. And in that division, maybe it's an easier path for them to get to where they want to be. And I think John Gonzalez had also said Wilson to Philly is a rumor.
How about another team real quick that has a lot of cap space and more or less a need at quarterback, if you want to say it, is Miami.
I was thinking about Miami. I was thinking about that one. The weather there and that division. Yeah, that kind of makes some sense. Owner that might want to make a splash. Kind of Miami. He kind of a weird owner there with a weird quarterback. Yeah, that make a lot of
I
sense.
There
mean,
you go.
Stephen Ross is trying to get himself out of a negative public eye right now. So
And if you take a step back, since Dan Marino retired, has Miami really had a solidified for more than a year or two a really, really good quarterback?
No.
They've kind of
No.
lacked that. Think about it, right? I mean, Pennington was good the 1 year. I mean, Tannehill had his moments. I mean, you
I
go
think
back.
Tannehill probably had the longest stretch, just in terms of like years.
Brian Greasy was okay for a brief period. As
Fiedler
well.
was okay.
Yeah, Fiedler won a playoff
Greasy.
game. They were all like, middle of the road. And so Rodgers would be their best quarterback since, well, Dan Marino. And the brute force that brings me to you, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I know you got a lot to say. You've heard a lot of different things here, so jump on in.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just get to Aaron Rodgers as a person. Let's start there with that. Okay, we use this term to describe people like him because because this is what he is. What I like to say, and I'll say it, he's called a chatterbox. All right, he's a chatterbox. All right, or people like to say he's chatting. All right, that's all he's doing. He's chatting. That's all he's doing. All right, and all he wants is media attention. All right, this guy is like dying for media attention. I guess he doesn't get enough, so he wants more. All right, I mean, come on, Aaron Rodgers, just all that nonsense on Instagram. Really, like you didn't need to do that. All right, so in the end, that's my first opinion on Aaron Rodgers. Secondly, I'll obviously state that I had him in fantasy football this past season. So what would I like to see personally? I would like to see him stay in Green Bay for the statistics. I think that obviously, against, as you guys said, against the Detroit Lions, John Gonzalez's team, against Minnesota, all right, against the Chicago Bears. Okay, those are teams that he loves to play against to get some statistics. So that would be good. And then we talk about the NFC obviously not being as good. I think that obviously it'll be easier for him to get into the playoffs. And to Justin Gianelli's point, if the whole thing with Amazon goes through, I think Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay is going to depend on if Devontae Adams is able to stay. He said, it depends on what decisions they make. It's not decisions, it's decision. It's one decision, whether they're going to keep Devontae Adams or not. I think that's really the big one. If they don't keep Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers ain't staying. And that's kind of my position on it. And then if he does go, I think it's got to be Denver. I mean, obviously they got the offensive coordinator as the head coach now. I think, too, the guy's point, I mean, if he's going to go there, he wants to beat those guys, those younger quarterbacks, and make a stance there. But in the end, he hasn't proven to beat anyone. Like he hasn't proven to beat anyone in a while. At a high level, these high level quarterbacks, he's losing to everybody. He lost to Jimmy damn G this year. Jimmy G, he lost to. So he has a lot of proving to do. I think that he should just remember that the NFC right now is the weaker conference. He needs to stay there. He needs to make the Green Bay Packers right. And in the end, listen, Jordan Love, I got to agree with John Gonzalez. He's hot trash. He's not good, okay? They have to admit they screwed up on him, okay? And what they do is just get whatever value they can out of him, whatever they can do. Send him to Pittsburgh. They could get Pittsburgh will take him over Mason Rudolph. They'll take him. Okay, so let's send him to Pittsburgh, get some compensation. All right, but ultimately they'll get rid of Jordan Love. They'll keep Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, hopefully. And I think that's his best route ultimately to have success. And then, the last thing I'll say, I just wanted to talk about Russell Wilson to the
sure, go ahead.
I mean, first of all, for Chris's point, because obviously he's the Eagles fan, I don't think he thinks that's going to happen. I think they want Jalen Hurts there for at least another year. They want to take a look at him. The team I'd like to see Russell Wilson potentially go to, I don't think Chris wants to hear this, but how about the newly renamed Washington Commanders? How about them? All right, because, maybe the Commanders could use a Russell Wilson, okay, to start that name, that command name, we command, all that nonsense that they're trying to do. I got to talk to Jake Supran about all these damn things they're trying to do.
I was going to say, you speak to Jake about that first to get permission on that.
I mean, they got all these different things they're trying to come up with in DC, but ultimately, if they come up with Russell Wilson, I actually think they could be respectable in that, especially in that division, but specifically in the NFC, as a whole.
Yeah, it's really not a strong division. And I have to ask, I mean, the Brute Force, do you own a Detroit Lions Jared Goff shirt?
Oh God! Listen, at this point, I might own one, but to send it to John Gonzalez. I'll be the owner by buying it, but I'm going to send it to John Gonzalez. All right, and with the Pittsburgh shirt on the side. All right, with John Gonzalez, because ultimately we know that those are John Gonzalez's two favorite teams to root for. All right, we know that, and John Gonzalez, I'm not going to forget this, John Gonzalez. You picked the Pittsburgh Steelers over Kansas City. All right, you did that. Okay, so you are the Pittsburgh guy. All right, and Detroit, listen, you know what? I'd rather wear a Detroit shirt than a Pittsburgh shirt. So if I got to wear a Detroit Lions Jared Goff jersey, okay, but it's really John Gonzalez. We all
That's
know.
bold to want to wear a Detroit Lions shirt over the Pittsburgh Steelers shirt, especially over the past, 20 or so years comparing the Steelers and the Lions. I mean, I could understand if it was like a Barry Sanders retro jersey or something, but to want to wear a Lions shirt over a Steelers shirt, I mean, certainly you are very brute and bold-like, and John Gonzalez was just laughing. So, I mean, listen, all those things certainly will run itself out over the next few months and weeks, and we'll talk about more of them, I'm sure. But speaking of Amazon, it seems to me as if it pays to be a broadcaster now these days more than it is to either be a player or a coach.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Billy McInerney here. I see now the latest development is Troy Aikman's going to ESPN. We know Al Michaels tentatively is with Amazon, and that could change to some other players as well. And it seems like all of a sudden now, being a broadcaster, again, it certainly pays more than being a player or a coach.
Yeah, certainly been being a coach. I'm not sure about being a player, at least if you're any good. But Troy Aikman, he retired like 20 years ago, but he's making more with ESPN in a year than he ever made with the Dallas Cowboys, which is interesting. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I think everyone is sort of looking for the big announced team now. I just think, I don't know. There's not really any football broadcast teams that I particularly like in the first place. So I don't know. And football is so unique because it's all national. There's no, other than radio, there's no local broadcast teams the way there is, Gary Keithenman with the Mets or Sam Rosen and Joe McLeod with the Rangers or, the
Brendan Bush with the Islanders and with the Yankees.
Yeah.
And obviously, Kay with everybody else there. I get it.
So football is so unique in that sense. I think that's a role in this. And I think networks are, they want – I kind of get it. I get it with CBS and Fox competing for those top broadcasters. I sort of don't get ESPN paying this much because they're doing the Monday night games, right? So – there's no other game to compete with. Everyone's watching. It doesn't really matter who the broadcaster is. Everyone's going to be watching. It's the only game on.
We got the Manning cast now. Don't forget. We still have that option.
ESPN's getting the money from both of those. It's the same company. It's not like they're not competing with themselves. It's the same company.
Well, different channels, maybe more ratings one channel over the other. I don't know. But it is interesting. You do make a good point, though, Billy, about the national telecast with a lot of these duos. Joe Buck, I got to be honest. No. I'm not a Joe Buck fan. I baseball and football. He's certainly not his father, to say the least. Then I do kind of like Nance and Romo. I have to say, of the national cast, they're the combo that I can tolerate the most.
That low bar to clear, yeah, they're probably the one I dislike the least, but that's still not.
Well, we're going to find out. Listen, NBC is going to probably have, I'm assuming, Mike Tirico and maybe Collinsworth. That brings me to Justin. What do you make of all these movings here? In terms of, broadcast teams and just the money that's being thrown around now.
Well, and I want to throw this in there because I just saw this a little while ago that I forgot. I already forgot. I think it was Amazon. They were prepared to throw $20 million a year for 5 years, or $100 million to Sean McVay, the Rams head coach, and he said no. And he's committed to coaching the Rams and defending the Super Bowl title. But, to your point, Troy Aikman at his peak made $16 million. That was
that much in a season? I didn't realize he did.
That was the most in a single season that he made for the Dallas Cowboys. Now he's about to get 18 or so there or thereabouts. With Monday Night Football. And it's interesting to see what Fox does from here because, first of all, Joe Buck has 1 year left on his deal with Fox. And I'm wondering if ESPN is going to try to make a compensation deal to get Joe Buck to be the Monday night announcer. That way you have the instant chemistry, still there between Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, which to me is they've been far and away the best team for years, and it's not even close.
I do like Nance and Romo for whatever reason.
I've been trying to push Jim Nance out of that number one spot for years. Like, it's enough with Jim Nance. For me, give me Ian Eagle and Tony Romo, because I'm going to say this right now, there is no announcer in the game better than Ian Eagle. He's the best announcer in sports.
As a Nickelodeon guy, give me Ian Eagle Jr.
Noah. Hey, Noah's working right now because the Clippers are playing the Lakers right now.
That's my point. Ian Eagle Jr. essentially. Give me Ian Eagle Jr.
But look, I mean, ESPN has the money to throw out there. They gave it to Troy, and this is big for Fox because A, Joe does the World Series. B, Fox has 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls. Who's going to be the next color commentator? I'm hearing Sean Payton's name out there. I'm hearing it's just a straight up promotion for Greg Olson potentially. So and Greg Olson,
very good.
Yeah, I like Greg Olson. Olson has been working with Kevin Burkhardt on the number 2 team. Kevin Burkhardt's another one who could be potentially effective.
Burkhardt, he makes sense.
Think about this.
SNY guy.
Because think about this: if Fox somehow idiotically lets Buck out of that contract, and it's Buck and Aikman now doing Monday Night Football, well, guess what? Kevin Burkhardt's slated to make tons and tons of money because now he's going to be the one slated to do the Super Bowls on Fox. He's probably going to get the World Series gig because I would doubt Buck stays with Fox for baseball only.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So,
let me ask you on Buck with ESPN real quick, because I do find this interesting because there are people that are going to listen to us, especially tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Would Buck, you think, do Sunday Night Baseball also as part of that ESPN deal? What do you think about that?
I think he would.
But here's the thing.
I think he would. Because remember, Matt Vasgersian is out because he's doing Angels more full time, and I think he's slated to do like closer to 120 Angel games this year.
That's a lot. That's a lot to do 120 than Sunday night.
But does Joe Buck want to give up doing the World Series? Because if he goes to ESPN, he's never going to do not never, but most likely.
Fox is locked into that long time.
Yeah.
See, the only thing is ESPN
no chance is that happening. You and I, everybody knows that. Listen, he has a better chance of being at WrestleMania this year.
And think about this: we've been in a solid rotation of 3 networks for years with Fox, CBS, NBC. ESPN and ABC are going to get a Super Bowl. I don't know when they're going to be getting a Super Bowl. So it's not like Buck will never call a Super Bowl again if he goes to ESPN.
I don't think he's.
But you're right. They're locked in for a long time. The Fox is locked in for a long time for the World Series. So
that would be the deal breaker, I think. I think that's.
I think it would be too. But now you're talking about somebody that Joe's worked with for over 20 years, and now he's going to have a long time.
That's a good point.
That would be the reason why he'd go there. But I think the reason why he'd stay
also money talks.
Yeah,
and I don't.
And is Fox going to be willing to lose their top guys together at the same time? So I think Fox is going to try.
We'll see because right when Romo got that contract was when I believe when Gruden went back to coach the Raiders, and then the Monday Night Football team became in flux, and ESPN wanted to throw all this money at Tony Romo, but CBS said no. You're staying with us.
I got one name for Fox before I get to some of the other guys because I realize I've got about a half hour or so left, maybe a few minutes over that. I mean, Charles Davis, I've always been a fan of. He does a great job with college football. I think he'd be a great guy to slot in for Aikman because he played the game. He's young. He's well-spoken. He's done a lot with the NFL draft coverage. I mean, that's a guy that knows the college and the NFL game. I would think Charles Davis.
I'd love to know what his contract status is with CBS, though, because right now he's the current number 2 analyst, but in the Iron Eagle crew. So I'd love to know what his contract is with CBS, but because You'd have
He
again,
worked with Fox
with the
before in the
networks.
past, Charles Davis. So that's why
He
I
did
brought
work with
him up.
Fox before getting the job.
Yep, for a long time he was
I
there.
think when Dan Fouts resigned or retired, I believe that's when they gave.
He was with Gus
Charles
Johnson
Davis.
on the college football games also when Fox took over the college football a number of years back when they
Yes.
had all the Big Ten and those Big 12 games. So I mean, listen, those are some things there. I mean, Patrick, what do you make of all these announcers changing hands? What do you make of all this?
I'm going to sound like a curmudgeon. I don't really like many announcers. A lot of times I'll just put it on mute and have conversations with people that I'm talking with. To be honest with you. I mean, Aikman doesn't really strike me as someone that knows where he is most of the time. So I don't really like him that much.
Okay.
He just kind of has that goofy, like out there look to him that he's good at what he does. And Joe Buck is good at what he does. And they have a good
They feed off each
symbiotic
other a little bit.
relationship
Yeah.
going, but there's something about both of them that I can't stand.
Well, they're both quirky. They have that quirkiness to them.
Yeah, and I like some quirkiness is good. I remember right now I watch the Manning cast for the Monday night stuff, but I liked Dennis Miller for a while.
Oh, I remember that.
Monday
Was a
Night Football.
while ago. We're going way.
Yeah, that was
back
a
in
while
college.
ago. But I'm more with announcing less is more.
Okay.
So
No, there's always been that philosophy. My father used to always say that you got to watch the games without the announcers because that's how you can watch the flow. And there are some people that believe that. And the Brute Force, I'm sure you as a player would have loved to have some of these announcers and some of them not so much. But I mean, do you care about all this? I mean, what do you make of it? I mean, I'll say one thing, Brad. We're in the wrong business. I mean, could you imagine if we were the announced team for St. Joe's? I mean, how much money I guess we could have made. I mean, but hey, that's maybe in the next life. But what do you make of all this stuff?
That's how I was going to start with the joke. Me, Tom, Bryce, Patrick, Chris, Justin, Billy, we're ready to go. We're ready to step in and announce some games. Fox, you need us. NBC, you need us. ESPN, we're ready. All right.
Oh yeah, I love announcing if they sign us up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're ready to go here. We're ready to go.
I was speaking to the coach yesterday off the air, and the coach asked me, "So, when are you available to talk again?" I said, "Listen, whenever you need me. If you need me to clean the kitchen sink at this point, whatever we can do. I mean, so at this point, I hear you, Brad."
No, listen, absolutely. But I do want to use this time because I remember growing up, and obviously everybody does as Mets fans watching Kevin Burkhardt. And I personally really liked Kevin Burkhardt a lot. When he was with the Mets as, obviously the on the field guy or, sideline guy, and the dugout guy. And look what he's done. I mean, he's built his way all the way up. I would love to see Kevin Burkhardt do World Series and do, football games, like big football games. I think he's really good at his job. I really have liked Kevin Burkhardt, and the fact that he's gotten so high, I think he deserves. I kind of want to see Joe Buck lead Fox so that Kevin Burkhardt could get into that role. I think he deserves it. I think that, I'm not just saying because I'm biased as a Mets guy, but I just think, listening to him for many, many years, he has a great voice. He does a great job. So I think Kevin Burkhardt deserves it.
Yeah, I always liked him. I mean, Ron Laird, of course, our very good friend Ron Laird agrees with us. And I always liked Kevin Burkhardt. I was always solid with the Mets. Always kind of was a very versatile guy and did a good job at the very beginnings of SNY. Because, of course, when SNY originally was in its inception, Kevin Burkhardt was one of those lead guys, along with the guy Gary Apple, of course, who's very well known in the New York area. He used to be at New York One when New York One would cover sports and such. And I got to also bring.
Can I just add one more thing to this?
Sure, absolutely, of course.
What I don't understand too is that the money that these guys are getting paid, I think, is ridiculous. Because to be honest, in a big game, any big game you want, playoff game, Super Bowl, whatever, I don't care who the announcers are, to be honest. I'm still going to watch the game regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sure, it adds a little bit that the guy's a former player and he's giving us this, when Madden 2 back in the day, yeah, it made it a little better. But at the end of the day, it's still the game. I'm watching the game. And I don't think that they add that much that it changes the whole complexion of the, you know what I mean?
It
Like
does, but it doesn't. Because to me, it's got to sound good too.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
I don't need two stiffs broadcasting.
No, but right, to your point. But how many are really that bad that you're like, oh, they're horrible? Like if they had the second or third team work in the Super Bowl.
To Chris's point, if my team is in it, I'm watching it no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could have the janitor and a guy
Game
from
or not,
section
right.
312, calling the game. I'm watching it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all watching. It's our team, even if it's like Sparrow Adidas, we're watching. It's our team.
That's what I mean, right?
Let's bring that name up. I was getting Jet flashbacks over the weekend because we were talking about the Michigan-Wisconsin game with the old Juwan Howard slap. Andrew Catalan was doing the game.
I always feel like, why do I feel like every time overnight I'm listening to the radio and his name always comes up? For whatever reason, his name always comes up. But very quickly on this, I'm surprised nobody brought up Al Michaels. I mean, what is everybody?
Oh, he's going to be out there for sure. Maybe for Amazon.
Right, but
what
if Joe Buck doesn't go to Fox? Does Al Michaels come back home and do Monday Night Football? Because Father Time.
I think ESPN would pony up. Yes. I think ESPN will pony up and beat out Amazon and have Al Michaels do Monday Night Football again.
Amazon's got an unlimited bank account.
We know that.
Right? So they could probably, if they want somebody, they're going to overpay for anybody, I would think.
Well, if they had an unlimited bank account, I might be making more then.
Well, that's true too. My brother did Amazon work, so I mean, there's a few people I could vouch for on that. So certainly, Amazon might have an unlimited bank account, but they do need to pay their workers a little more. But that's a different conversation for a different time. And nobody brought up Mike Tirico and Chris Collins' work. Nobody.
Tirico's great.
They're going to be. Yeah, I like them. They'll be the NBC team.
Worst color analyst.
No. That might be the worst comment I've ever seen. Aqib Talib brings energy. He brings fire. I love it. Aqib Talib to me is great. He's a rising star in the business.
Okay.
And I thought you mentioned Collinsworth. I think he's one of the worst now. I used to like him, but the last few years, him and Al Michaels to me were not good together. I don't know if it was because Al Michaels is getting older and he's getting past his prime and everything, but not a Collinsworth fan. But Tirico, I think, is one of the best. So whoever gets him, I don't know where he's going to end up going. But I would love for Tirico to get one of the number one jobs somewhere.
I've always thought Mike Tirico has always been a really solid, versatile guy that, you can hear him talk about golf. You can hear him talk about hockey. You can hear him talk about the NBA. You can hear him talk about baseball. You can hear him talk about the Olympics, the World Cup. And there are certain broadcasters that they don't connect like that. Like Joe Buck, to me, I'm just as straight up as a football and a baseball guy, right? But Mike Tirico, on the other hand, conversely, and Jim Nance for me, and again, I'm in the minority. I'm a Jim Nance guy. Jim Nance for me always was great for golf, college basketball, always great for football.
Yeah, I'll give you that, though. I do like Jim Nance calling golf. I like it a lot.
He's solid.
For some reason, he bothers me on the football telecasts.
But my point is that he's versed, like college football.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's where certain broadcasters, like they don't like Matt Vasgersian. I could not imagine calling certain sports, right? Like there are certain broadcasters for me that they don't connect that way.
John Madden calling golf. That would just be like amazing. Back in the day, John Madden doing the thing with golf.
Well, Pat Summerall called tennis for all those years. If anybody remembers it as kids, Pat Summerall was still doing the U.S. Open way back for CBS. I mean, there are sometimes.
So did Dick Enberg for all those years.
Well, Dick Enberg for me was always like your favorite grandfather almost. I mean, Dick Enberg was like 800 years old. And this guy, and the guy ended his career, by the way, for those that don't know and listen to this on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, he ended his career actually calling San Diego Padres games on the radio. So, I mean, there are certain broadcasters. I mean, Dick Enberg was, again, that guy called probably badminton. I mean, Dick, but he was a great announcer. Listen, Dick Enberg, he also, as a kid, did football for PlayStation games. There was a few, I think it was NFL, like
NFL Game Day.
There you go. So I'm not the only one that played those games back in the day. Very fair enough here. But as I got about another 15 or so minutes before I get closing thoughts, and we'll finish the rest as the usual here on Sportswire Radio, sportnarium.com/player. I did kind of want to touch upon basketball very quickly because I'm looking at the Brute Force, and I know John Gonzalez kind of poked the tiger a little bit here, and there were certainly people that were listening. I mean, the Brute Force, How you doing right now in terms of your blood pressure when it comes to the NBA? Anything you want to get off your chest right now? Because I'm sure there are people that are going to watch and listen to this later on and be curious just what your thoughts are. I think even Chris, we were talking about this off the. I think he wanted to ask you a question or two. So
Yes.
certainly, you might get a question or two thrown here at you.
Yeah, sure, why not? Since I see John Gonzalez is like trying his hardest to make me talk about James Dolan, all right, which is absolutely the worst topic you could have tried to get me to talk about, all right? Because James Dolan, listen, all right, because I saw it in his Sports Authorities group that he was trying to say is owner in sports, and I said it's definitely, he's by far the worst. I mean, there ain't anybody close to him. Worst currently right now. Currently, I'm talking about worst owner in sports. He is the worst. Okay?
I think he's
is awful.
by the way.
But and again, I'm a little biased. But in my eyes, okay, he is by far the worst owner in sports. He has taken a team that is from New York City. They're in the world's most famous arena. They are, is New York, the mecca of basketball, we call it. And he has destroyed them, basically, since he has gotten the owner job as the owner. What have they done since he's become owner of the New York Knicks? They've basically been a laughingstock in New York City, okay? My whole life has been dedicated to seeing the New York Knicks be straight trash, all right? They've been awful. They've been disgusting. Some of the records shouldn't even be shown anymore because they're that bad. The New York Knicks are an embarrassment. And once again, like I said last week, all right, they're terrible. They're unwatchable. I tried to watch a little bit only today because I like the Miami Heat. I like the Miami Heat as a team. They played the New York Knicks tonight, and the Knicks, of course, lost, as we all expected. So in the end, all right, the New York Knicks are the same joke. But James Dolan, by far, worst owner. It's not even close in my eyes. He's terrible. He's a clown. He looks like a clown. He's ugly. I mean, what else do you want me to say? He is just an embarrassment to New York City. He is an embarrassment to Long Island because he lives here. He is an embarrassment to basically anybody in the NBA because he has ruined a team that's from New York City in the New York Knicks. The Brooklyn Nets, who were in damn near New Jersey for many years, have taken over New York because this man cannot get it right. James Dolan is a disaster. But the last thing I want to get off my chest about the NBA very quickly, Tom Bryce, is the NBA dunk contest. Oh my God. The NBA dunk contest might have been more tragic than the New York Knicks this year. And listen, let me just get to this. It's nice to see a New York Knicks win something in Obi Toppin, but that dunk contest was awful. I could have put on a better show, all right? That dunk contest with that. How many more dunks are we going to see missed? Why do we have to see a player go in Timberlands, for God's sake, trying to dunk, and Cole Anthony and risking his career, all right? And it wasn't even that good of a dunk. I mean, that dunk contest was a tragic embarrassment. It was terrible for the NBA because it just looked awful. The guys who were in it, we all saw, when we saw those names, we're like, damn it, this is not going to be good. And they actually did even worse than what we already expected. So that dunk contest was god-awful. I'm embarrassed to see that in the NBA. And there's been proposals out there about different ways to fix the dunk contest. But the dunk contest as a whole has just completely gone down the drain for many years, and they have to fix it. Because the rest of All-Star Weekend was very entertaining.
I thought the All-Star game I enjoyed a lot. I have to say the All-Star game itself, I watched it from start to finish. It was a great game.
The festivities, three-point shooting contest, the skills challenge they improved. They did a lot of things right. But the one thing they got wrong, and it is tragically wrong, is the dunk contest right now. It is embarrassing.
Yeah, no, the dunk contest, I got to be honest, I haven't cared for a dunk contest in ages. I mean, so you want to add anything, Justin, on the NBA, any general thought? Because I know on Tobacco Sports Road Radio, they're going to have a lot of talk when it comes to basketball on the station. You want to add real quick?
I was proven dead wrong a few years. I made a comment a few years ago and said that when Kristaps Porzingis won the skills challenge back in 2017, I said that's the only trophy Knicks fans will see in their lifetime. I guess I was wrong because Obi Toppin won the dunk contest, but hey, I saw the highlights of it. It was brutal. I mean, it's not the dunk contest of yesteryear, even with Vince Carter.
I was watching the Vince Carter documentary last week, and that was the first thing that came to my mind as well.
I even enjoyed the Dwight Howard, Blake Griffin days.
Yeah.
Those were fun.
Even Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon,
Zach
those were
LaVine, Aaron
great.
Gordon.
Yeah,
stuff.
Zach LaVine was good.
Just a
Yeah,
couple
What
of
about
years
Nate
ago, those
Robinson
were
from the Knicks?
super
He
Nate
won
Robinson.
right?
What's that?
Didn't
Yeah.
Nate Robinson won the slam dunk?
Nate Robinson won it.
He did win one. Yep.
Those are the only trophies the Knicks got is slam dunk contest.
That's pretty bad.
Well, Kenny Walker won one too. I think way back in the
Yeah,
day. There's
Kenny
a couple
Skywalker,
trophies.
right?
There
Yep.
you go. So listen, the Knicks have won a couple trophies. It hasn't been all
Yeah,
that
I mean,
bad.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are you gonna do though? I mean,
It's pretty sad.
I'm happy the second half of the season's back. I think it's gonna be a good ride. I think it's gonna be a good run to the finish. I think if you checked out any of, and I know they weren't on like national TV, but if you checked out any of the Sixers, Timberwolves, the Sixers look great tonight. It was James Harden's debut for the Sixers. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. For the Western Conference, how the Suns deal without Chris Paul.
I think that's the most interesting storyline.
That's gonna, because that could change the landscape of the Western Conference. Because you look at how good Golden State's been.
How about Memphis? Memphis has played really well this year.
Memphis has been one of the big surprises, and right now I'd cast my vote for Taylor Jenkins for Coach of the Year. What he's done with the Memphis Grizzlies. John Morant, thankfully, seems to be okay. Got hurt last night, but he did finish the game. But Memphis just building their team the right way, and they're really coming on, and they're coming together, and the chemistry is exceptional right now.
I think Memphis has been a phenomenal story in the league. I also think Nick
Can I make one quick comment just on Justin Gianelli had to say?
Absolutely.
He mentioned Taylor. He mentioned, sorry. So Justin mentioned Taylor Jenkins as Coach of the Year in the NBA. I want to give an honorable shout. I love Taylor Jenkins, but I mean, how could you not give it right now to JB Bickerstaff? I mean,
that's fair.
I mean, I love his. First of all, I love his name, but JB Bickerstaff, okay, a guy who's been an interim coach. He's been around the block. All right, this Cleveland Cavaliers team was supposed to be god awful, and they are what, third or fourth in the conference right now. They're overseeded.
They were tied for second at one point, I think, as well.
I mean, they're unbelievable. And this guy's, been an interim coach for many years. So him, and then I'll just say one more, even though I think it's JB Bickerstaff. But how about Billy Donovan in Chicago? And I know, Billy Donovan, another Long Island guy.
I think the Bulls were expected to play. I'll throw Nick Nurse in Toronto. I think they've done a nice job.
Yes, the Raptors have been a bit of a surprise after a down year last year. But you know what? I'll take you up on that with JB Bickerstaff. They've done a terrific job, and I mean, God, I'd give Kobe Altman Executive of the Year. I mean, the way they put that roster together, and the way Bickerstaff has battled through injuries, through the team's injuries, it's gonna be a great special awards down the stretch. I mean, you could certainly make a case for a lot of guys. Donovan, I wouldn't say so much, because I think you're looking at DeMar DeRozan playing on an all-world MVP level. That's really carrying the Bulls right now.
Yeah, and I kind of think at the end of the day, the Bulls, you expected them to be in the postseason.
We figured they'd be good this year.
Very quickly, because I want to move on here, especially for those that are going to listen to this tomorrow afternoon on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. And this could be very quickly for Brad or Justin, because we have listeners in North Carolina. Charlotte Hornets, what are you guys' predictions for them in terms of how they do in the second? Because they're, again, right in this mix here with the postseason.
Well,
Brad and Justin, go ahead.
I'll start with a holy bleep, because they came out with vengeance tonight, just absolutely dismantling the Toronto Raptors. They were up. They're up at one point by 40. And they ended up winning the game 125-93. With the young LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier tonight had a good game. They're well rounded, and they're well coached. I think they're gonna have a decent second half. They're looking at a play-in situation. You know, I don't know how far, I really don't think they could take it all that far, but you know, they're definitely a team looking at anywhere between 7 and 9.
That's what I kind of thought.
Yeah, their ceiling seems to be 7, and their floor seems to be about 9. I mean, you didn't even have a great game from LaMelo Ball today, and you know you still got 23 from Kelly Oubre. You got 20 from Montrezl Harrell. I mean, there's definitely some talent on this Hornets roster, and they're another franchise. And while they haven't had the success the Cavs or Grizzlies have had this year, you could see what they're building as a franchise. You could see that they're a young team ascending.
They're getting there. Yeah, you can definitely feel that.
I think this is probably going to be the first time in Jordan's tenure as owner where we could see a clear path towards future consistency year after year with them doing well and making the postseason and eventually maybe advancing.
Anything real quick, Brown? This very quick because I want to get everybody's closing thoughts for the stream here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to make this real quick. So Charlotte, I agree, is going to be a playing team. I think they're going to be a very competitive playing team, and LaMelo Ball is a superstar in the making. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do there. But quickly, I just want to, because we're talking to the North Carolina audience, I want to give a shout-out because Mike Krzyzewski has his last couple of games for Duke coming up here. They're playing Syracuse this weekend in a big game. So I want to give a shout-out to Duke. And then I also, more importantly, want to give a shout-out because I was at Elon against Hofstra the other night. Elon, of course, is from North Carolina. My dad is an Elon grad.
The legendary Joel Weiss, of course.
Yeah,
a legendary baseball player.
My dad is a legendary Elon Phoenix. So my dad and I were at the game, and Hofstra was favored to win by a lot because Hofstra's third in the conference, and Elon's not having a great year. And Elon kicked their butt. And my dad was the only one in the stands with the Elon shirt, you know, and everybody else is like, what the heck is going on? So I want to give a shout out to Elon because they had a big game against Hofstra, and I like their team. So shout out to all our North Carolina listeners. You know, Elon's good, Duke is good, good, and the Charlotte Hornets are ascending. So you guys are
all the North Carolina now going forward. I know we're all from New York, or at least in the tri-state area, but we all have to sort of root for North Carolina teams at this point, some way or another. So
I'll give one final shout out.
Very quick.
And I'll give one final shout out. You know, for the Carolina Hurricanes too. I mean, they're one of the best teams in hockey. A 4-0 shutout win tonight over the Columbus Blue Jackets. You know, they're now 36-11.
Well, Columbus has played well themselves, by the way.
Yeah, Columbus has been real hot of late, and they got slowed down tonight by the Hurricanes. I mean, they are one of the teams to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference, and I would not be in the least bit surprised if the Hurricanes represent the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals this year.
Well, Billy's here on the stream. He'll have a different thought on that. We'll get to that.
Couple of years, and I think something's brewing down there.
Yeah, you know what? They've got a nice run team, and they've got an owner, and they've got a coach, and they've really made some nice moves there. And again, shout out to everybody that's listening to us down there in North Carolina. And the Brute Force, I will say before we get closing thoughts very quickly, at least for the live portion of this was a good case if there was a mask policy at Hofstra that you and your father would have had masks on, because that way the Hofstra fans would know who you guys are. So you could actually run out the door and kind of go like unnoticed. So this would be the one time you might want to endorse an indoor mask rule. So that way, if you guys were wearing Elon garb, you could put the mask on your faces, so that way you could not be seen and get beat up after the game. That's just a little thought I had there. So that was kind of funny. But obviously, shout out to your father. He's always listening to us. But let me get closing thoughts very quickly because I've only got about 7 or so minutes on the stream before we move over for the last 20 minutes. I do want to talk very quickly on the Rangers before we get out of here and a thought too on basketball. So Patrick, I want to give you closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug and anything else on your mind? I know Talking Rivals show we usually get on Monday, so hopefully we get some good news with the players and owners, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great as always. You can find me on Twitter at Patrick Trotty. You can find Chris and I every Monday. We'll be doing minor league stuff this week.
I think so.
This episode. So
top 10.
A lot of news on that. We have Ernest Stubb just interviewed.
Yeah, we'll be looking at top prospects and
Do that. Yep.
From the Yankees and the Red Sox, and hopefully there's good news of baseball. And if there's not, come over and listen anyway, and we'll just trash Manfred for a while. Rivals on Twitter, and join the misery. But if there's good news, you can join, and our next episode will be celebratory. So either way,
Everybody,
You never know.
we'll certainly find out. Everybody can follow, of course, the Talking Rivals on Twitter at Talking Rivals. Also, please subscribe to their YouTube page and follow Patrick Trotty as well at Patrick Trotty on Twitter. Billy, I want to give you, at least for the live stream here, some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. You can find me on Twitter at WMCINE. For closing thoughts, really, obviously it's going to be a huge weekend for baseball. We'll see if, we'll probably know by this time next week whether it's going to be a full season or not. So hoping to get done. Hopefully they get something done, and, we have spring training getting underway. So that's what I'll leave with is, cautious optimism for baseball.
That's it. That's all we can do. And, of course, you can follow Billy McInerney on Twitter at WMCINE. And, Justin, I want to give you some quick closing thoughts here. Anything you want to plug, anything baseball banter, and I can't thank you enough, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me once again. Another fun Friday night with the guys. If we get good news, there will be a baseball banter talking about it this week. If not, we might be on a slight hiatus for the next week to 10 days. But I wish I could be optimistic, but the pit in my stomach is saying no bueno. So I wish I could feel better about the situation, because come March 31st, I would like to be at Citi Field for Mets Nationals. So, but you can follow me on my personal Twitter at JGNLE12. The Baseball Banter Twitter page is at BBallBanterSM, and that's where you can hit me up on social media.
Absolutely. And, of course, I want to endorse John Gonzalez's comment here. His best comment all night here, John. He wants to give a shout-out to Chris for his great – probably really was his best comment. I mean, I really –
Just for us.
I mean,
That's pretty bad.
just maybe the best for last here, John. I want to give a shout-out to Chris for a great post on the Sports Authorities group. Tremendous job here, John. That was his best one. I mean, what can I tell you? I mean, Chris, anything you want to add, any closing thoughts, anything you want to plug, lift off Jets, Talking Rivals, whatever else, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks. You can follow me on Twitter at CP7NY. Like Patrick said, we'll be talking on Monday baseball on Talking Rivals. Hopefully good news. If not, we'll be still talking baseball. We'll be getting into the top 10 prospects for the Yankees and the Red Sox. And on the Liftoff Jets show, we have another guest coming up this week, James Wighouse of BSB Breakdowns.
Sure.
Jets X Factor, breaking down the Jets offseason and what they're going to do, the plans, draft, free agency, all that stuff. So definitely look into it. Our last episode was awesome. Like you said, we had Andrew Golden, great episode. Love him. Check out his podcast as well. But that's about it. And I got a good question for Brute Force coming up after we switch on to the live.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
This is a great
No,
reason
I'm
why you
curious.
want to tune in for that. Good.
One, yeah.
But they certainly save the high stakes drama there. We love that. Sort of like in wrestling, sort of a stay tuned cliffhanger. But the Brute Force here, very quickly, some closing thoughts here. I've got about 2 or so minutes. So floor is yours. Anything you want to plug, and anything else you want to plug at the end of the stream, we can do that when we're on just sportnarium.com/players. So floor is yours, my friend.
Absolutely. So thank you to our worldwide listeners and audience for supporting us and obviously listening to another great edition of Friday Night Live here on the Sports Report. You can find me on Instagram at bweiss20, on Twitter at bradweiss20, and searching on Facebook, searching Bradley Weiss. Certainly excited for what's to go forward here in the world of sports. I want to once again congratulate my SJC Golden Eagles on a great season, and I certainly want to give a shout-out to my Plainview Hawks because we cannot wait for our first county championship in the long history of Plainview JFK High School next Saturday. So thank you, everybody. Flip over to sportnarium.com/player. We got more to talk about, and I'll definitely be answering Chris's questions. And John Gonzalez, I'll be waiting for you for some more stuff on sportnarium.com/player.
Absolutely. And I also want to again thank everybody over at Tobacco Radio. I want everybody to follow them on Twitter at Tobacco Radio. That's Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Again, they're based in the Triad, which is the North Carolina area. They cover prep, college, and pro sports in the North Carolina area and beyond. We are also a part of it. Also, Larry Frank with Frankly Sports is also a part. You hear Larry, of course, Monday through Wednesdays. He has 9 p.m. And you want to talk about guys, I don't want to say weird, but characters, Larry is one of them. So you definitely, if you like what you hear from us, you'll definitely like Larry. And of course, Larry is a part of the team over at TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. I also want to thank again Linda and Mac McGrath over at Northeast Streaming Sports Channel. You can catch us there tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Roku. I want to thank also again one more time our SJC Long Island Golden Eagles, the men's basketball team. I also want to thank the John Jay College Athletics Program for their support, the Five Town Sound Athletics Program also for their support. I'm looking forward to speaking with Coach Alfaro and Coach Durzel here coming up in a few days. In fact, I got messages from both of them as we are on the air, so they were listening to us. So thank you guys for that. So we are with Billy McInerney, formerly of Elite Sports, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Chris Bizzet of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals Show, Patrick Trotty, esteemed author also of the Talking Rivals Show and the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, the legendary SJC Long Island Golden Eagle alum. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you are listening and watching to us, just head on over to sportnarium.com/player for the rest of the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this, and we'll be on tomorrow night, 8 p.m., on Roku, Northeast Streaming Sports, and tomorrow afternoon on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Thank you. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce.